Now, we have somebody else here from the Office of Technology Transfer, Dr. Bob Griesbach.
You're on.
I thought it'd be real brief. Everybody's been very pro and positive for Tom, but nobody's talked about his dark side. And he does have a dark side. I can still remember back about 15 years ago, we were talking and we got mentioning, and all of a sudden Boy Scouts popped up. So we got talking about Boy Scouts, and he's walking out, he says, you know, it really makes up for you being German. So his dark side is he's anti-German. And I think what was sort of curious, which has not been mentioned with all of the students and things he has, is I can always remember he'd call up early in the morning if it was raining, and with his students, he would then give them tours. So he made sure when those students left here, not only did they know some of the other things, he went to certain labs, they learned about genetic engineering, they learned about the tissue culture, and like I said, I remember most, all of your students you're bringing through, trying to learn about everything else. So it was a complete package when the students came. So you're gonna have more than your deal of fun in your retirement.
Dr. Griesbach is a truly brilliant scientist here at Beltsville, an expert on orchids. And his father was a plant breeder. So you released your first cultivar when you were how old? A daylily, wasn't it?
It was a glad when I was 9.
A gladiolus when you were 9 years old. Indeed. And I have another colleague here. Would you like to say a few words?
Well, I met Dr. Devine about 3 years ago. So we worked in Beltsville a couple of years, got a couple of publications. I got my master's degree of my own. I increased the protein content of corn by 0.5%. The zinc, right next to it, 50 feet away, I increased protein content of soybeans by about 1/8 by manganese. Zinc had no control on soybeans, manganese had no control on things. So, and I worked a couple of other things. We have lots to talk about. So I do appreciate coming. You know people here. I worked here in 76, to 76, 68, 76 off and on. So, best of luck.
Thank you. Dr. Mohammed, would you like to say a few words?
Thank you. I know Tom for a long time. I'm a biochemist, and I'm in USDA recently 2 years ago. And I used to be a faculty, a teacher, a researcher. I learned my soybean. I am a lipid chemist, work with cholesterol and heart disease and all this stuff. Then I came to work on soybeans. Then I met with Tom. I learned a lot from him. And we started working in the dark side of soybeans, talking about the bad thing in the seeds. Then based on that, I went to meet with Dr. Matthew and Dr. Matthew, learned something from them. Then I went to the human nutrition side. I say, okay, there is what we call it bad side of soybean. And in the United States, most of the soybean go to animal feed or produce oil. Why people in China and Japan and East eating all these soybean is still healthy and more healthy than us? Then we start looking at what we call it anti-nutritional factor. We started looking in actually the health benefits of that. Then this one done in early 86 or so. And based on that, we started getting the first actual research with the Human Research Center. I remember Dr. Spence with a friend of mine, Sam Bassino, started working on that. And a few years later, becoming a hot item. You hear it, one of you hear about genistein and isoflavones and all this stuff. All of it used to be bad for health, now becoming very good for health. And many, many other things. And I think the first research we're starting that, regional research project on soybean 19, I think regional research project 3. Yeah, okay, that's why the first time we met. Then we have a regional research project on soybean, called Region 5, and we start working on the vegetable soybeans. Then we start working again, regional research project 7, and this one 15 years, and he was working with us as a consultant. Then anything I need to know variety as a biochemist need to work on, the first person I need to call and need to go to, I'm with them. And one thing really, right now for my job, I'm in an area and cooperative state research, education and extension service. We work with research, education, and extension. One thing we are missing in USDA, education. And we try to work very hard in our agency, funding education, especially the unit I'm in. Now, if you hear from Tom today, you see how much education he's doing. And really what we're looking for is a more and more and more scientists. And USDA is starting bringing students and bringing education to students. Really, it is much more important to have a very good publication as to have a very good body, someone able to learn something because he can take it to various generation. Paper will be stuck in a journal somewhere. After a few years, people forget about it. But no matter how many years it goes, educated student will take it will never forget. Thank you.
The neighbor who's a school teacher, do you want to say anything?
I was going to say, I don't know Tom from the agricultural bus service, but as a friend and a neighbor for many years, 34 years, I guess. And I have to say, if it weren't for him, I probably wouldn't know anything at all about soybeans or hairy veg. And I think we've learned just a wee bit more about Irish history. So we look forward to many more years of friendship. Congratulations.
Would you like to say something?
Well, I'm definitely not worthy to speak after all of these other people that have known Dr. Devine for so long, but I think I can, in the short period that I've known him, I guess when I first met and saw Dr. Devine was at a farming systems review project, and they were going around to each scientist asking them what they do, and each person would say, well, I'm a molecular biologist, or I'm a soil microbiologist, or et cetera, et cetera. And when it came to Dr. Devine, he said plant breeder. And when he said it not just as a scientist, but he said it as an artist and as someone who's, in those two words, you could see that he had dedicated his life to it in a way, and that he really loved what he did. And just as on a personal note, I'm just finishing up my master's now with Dr. Michelle Cavagelli in the Sustainable Ag Systems Lab. And for some time now, I've been trying to search for a dissertation project. And I had an idea, but I thought, oh, it's not such a good idea. And I told it to a few people, and they kind of looked at me strange. And I didn't have the guts or the courage to say it to anybody, but I revealed my idea to Dr. Devine, and he thought it was a great idea, and it gave me the courage really to run with it. And because of his encouragement, not just to me, but now I've seen to so many other students, in such a short time you can have a great impact on your life, and he really, really helped me have the courage to go forward with this idea, and I thank you very much for that, and congratulations, and I wish you a great retirement.
He had a brilliant idea to preserve genetic diversity, and he has connections in Serbia, and with the monasteries, he went to visit the patriarch in Serbia, and these monasteries are great places to preserve germplasm in situ. So I thought that was a brilliant idea, and I said, well, let's go right over to our germplasm people. And we went up there, and a whole series of conversations ensued from that, and they're going to work together on that, because that's a really neat idea. So when you get a neat idea, you want to work on it right away. Now, there's another New Yorker here. Would you like to say something? Huh? He was learning the bagpipes at one time, I think. Were you? But you switched to
My
something
wife
else?
sent me to the basement to practice. I switched to fiddle. I'm not sure if that's something better. I have to close the door. But I didn't meet Tom until I've been here about 10 years. I moved into building one. I learned that he's from the Bronx, so my father grew up in the Bronx too, and visited my uncle there, and he went to Fordham where my parents did. And it was kind of funny to meet an agriculturalist with that kind of background. And so I was I think seeing it with all your students and the people you've mentored, I'm very much impressed with that. And a couple times you come around with resumes, Tom was very good about bringing the students to meet everybody. You know, introduce them to all the scientists, and it's, you know, so you get to know who they were, and they'd sort of get an idea of all the other people working there. And also with, we hired 1 or 2 of them, bring the resumes around, trying to get other people involved in that. And I wish, sometimes, you know, being in Beltsville is like being in a big buffet. You know, there's all this great work going on, but your plate gets filled up. You only have so many people you can work with. And I wish I had more time. Some of the stuff Tom was doing was very interesting, and I'm learning more about it now. I wish I had more abilities. And I think with this year around here, I'll make sure coming around with the notices from Ireland and all the things in the news and everything. And you pointed at me before about St. Patrick's Day. I think you were pointing at me. Was that about who was going to carry on with it?
Green shirt.
Anyway, well, good luck with your retirement, Tom.
Thank you.
And
And then we have the 2 current students here, Billy Wyand here and Jacob Osman. You guys want to say a few words?
Sure. For the ones that have been working here, I've been working under Tom Devine for about 5 years now, on and off, throughout my undergrad, and he's quite an influence on my life. Actually, I got suckered in from changing from a pre-law major into a plant science major now, so that a good influence. But to sum up Tom Devine, I would say he's a gentleman and a scholar, because his whole heart is just filled with kindness. And all the students here, you informally learn about history. He's the sole reason I passed world history class. I used to have references just saying, conversation with Tom Devine. That was my entire paper. So, but that's how I would sum him up, a gentleman and a scholar.
Yeah, I came from Towson down to the University of Maryland in 2007, and I desperately needed a part-time job. So searching through the school paper, I found this advertisement to come up here and work with soybeans. So I thought, you know, being from a farm in Pennsylvania, a little field work would be right up my alley. So I found a nice little home here and met some very good people. So yeah, it's been a pleasure.
Yeah, I got my cataracts fixed. Jim, you want to have the last word here?
Well, I had my say, I think, already.
Yeah,
I think
that's true.
you've heard it over and over. I mean,
Tom, actually, you've got one more student that wants to speak here by way of a letter that we received. Do you remember Bill Berzonsky?
Oh, Berzonsky.
Berzonsky? Yeah. Well, Bill sent a letter. He's at South Dakota State University, a week reading there. And I'll just take an excerpt from the letter. You can read the whole thing, but he said it was a tremendous honor and privilege to have Dr. Devine as mentor. I can honestly say that no other individual has positively influenced my career path like Dr. Devine. I think the thing